Dear Madam President, dear Mr. Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Green Red has failed. The citizens have had enough of the ideological transformation by left-green sectarians, as you have been sitting here in the government. But you too, Mr. Merkel, have already failed because what you are doing is deceiving the voters. You will not be able to deliver on your promises. You won't be able to implement anything with Green Red. That's part of the truth as well.
I hope it goes very well.
All they will achieve is that the government of their Angela Merkel and the destructive work driven to the extreme by Green Red will continue in our country. And the necessary reforms that will set Germany right will only be unnecessarily delayed by this, but thankfully you will no longer be able to prevent them. The migration turnaround, the economic, energy, and tax turnaround. And the shift in social policy will come. And it will only be possible with the alternative for Germany. What would Germany look like if the alternative for Germany were to implement its program as a governing party? It would be a Germany with secured borders and a border protection that effectively prevents illegal migration and cross-border crime. A strong barrier is put in place, and only those are allowed into the country who have a legal right to reside in our country. It would be a Germany with a modernized asylum law that no longer opens the door wide to the abuse of illegal immigration, but is aligned with the capacity of our country to take in people. This Germany would have a fundamentally reformed, I don't know what you are actually doing here in the Bundestag, Greens. What are you actually doing here? You're just interrupting, you're just shouting. This drooling kindergarten here, what are you actually doing? You are making politics against the population. Our Germany, our vision of the future, would have a fundamentally reformed right of residence and naturalization that is open to all those who work here and pay taxes, and who identify with the nation-state of the Germans, its culture and legal system, and want to make a positive contribution to it, while consistently closing the door to notorious criminals, religious extremists, and anyone who wants to exploit our willingness to take them in. The door points. In this Germany, would have the respect for the law and the equality of all, before the law restored as absolute validity. It would be a country where the freedom of citizens is not just a lip service, but is at the center of the legal and value system. Madam President, these interruptions, IT is...
Well, you can also tell that to your own faction, which keeps interrupting here. I am very, very happy to be here.
Your job, Madam President, is to lead the Presidium neutrally. And this drooling is really going on the air. It's really exhausting. And these people have no place here in the Bundestag. You've never worked a day in your life. You've never worked a day in your life. You do that. We want a country in which fundamental rights, the rights of individuals to defend themselves against. It's going to continue just like that. Go to work. You will have the opportunity to do that starting the week after next, if they are further diminished. Go to work, find yourself a job. In fundamental rights, the rights of individuals to defend themselves against state overreach is often misunderstood by the powerful as discretionary acts of grace that they can grant or withdraw at will, especially after having been showered with taxpayer-funded campaigns. The courts in this country have the foremost task of administering justice impartially and independently, without regard to a person's status or beliefs. The appointment of the highest judicial offices would be removed from the influence of political parties, and the public prosecutors would be independent from the directives of the justice ministers. Because the judiciary, as the third branch of government, must control the executive and not simply endorse it. The domestic intelligence and constitutional protection agencies would be fundamentally reformed. The people of the state, the entirety of the citizens, are very sovereign, and they should not only cast their votes in parliamentary elections, but also be able to vote directly on central issues through referendums and popular votes. We want direct democracy in Germany. Madam Weidel, may I ask a question or make a comment from Mr. Brischmann? There is a diverse media landscape in this country that competes for this, to keep the powerful in check, to scrutinize them closely, instead of serving as a mouthpiece. The competition would no longer be distorted by a lavishly funded public media sector that relies on compulsory fees and has long since given up its journalistic independence. The broadcasting fees would be abolished. Tax money would be collected sparingly in this country. A good government respects what the citizens have earned through their hard work and claims no more than what is necessary to fulfill its few core tasks. It is absolutely necessary. A good government respects the property of its citizens and does not infringe upon it with wealth, inheritance, and excessive income, corporate and consumption taxes. A well-governed state does not patronize or harass its citizens. He doesn't distribute their money all over the world or to ideological lobby groups and favorites to buy their loyalty. He leaves the taxpayer with as much as possible, net income, in hand, so that he can provide for himself, his family, and his future. He doesn't interfere in his private life, and also not in the upbringing of his children. And do not presume on the child. It does not presume to indoctrinate the population ideologically, from the child to the community. A good government knows that the middle class and the entrepreneurial sector are the backbone of prosperity, wealth, and civility in the country. A good government knows and respects the importance of entrepreneurial freedom, and it merely ensures that internal and external security, the rule of law, a functioning infrastructure, a performance-oriented and ideologically neutral education system, as well as social care for those who cannot help themselves, are guaranteed. A functioning Germany. It would have its own strong currency, ensuring that the wealth created by the people stays in the country and retains its value. It would have its own independent central bank, a federal bank that does not allow politics to coldly expropriate citizens through inflation, the most unsocial of all wealth taxes. Without a functioning, secure, and affordable energy supply, there can be no thriving economy. Germany has the highest energy prices in the world because they have destroyed our energy infrastructure here in this high house. Instead of continuing to clutter our landscapes with overly expensive, highly subsidized wind turbines, and destroying solar mirrors that don't provide electricity during darkness and calm would be what a sensible government would do. Hence, the subsidy monster. And I laugh at you because you can't behave. You can't behave, that's what you owe your voters. Just do serious politics. You have ruined this country, and for that, you will be punished by the voters. You won't be sitting here like this next week. A sensible government would therefore stop the subsidy monster of the energy transition and immediately push for a return to nuclear power and do it immediately. And buy cheap oil and natural gas where it's the cheapest. Where it is the cheapest. And a sensible government would end a ruinous energy policy that only harms its own country. We will put an end to that. A well-governed Germany would have a functioning army that would be taken seriously by allies and enemies alike, and a foreign policy that is concerned with balance and good economic and political relations with all neighbors and major powers. It would pursue a diplomacy that doesn't get dragged into conflicts by the mood, but acts as an honest broker for peace. It would have a foreign policy that always keeps the interests of its own country in mind and represents them with reason and skill, and not make itself the laughingstock of the world with out-of-touch lecturing and moralistic delusions of grandeur. We are guided by the belief that the sovereign nation-state is the foundation for democracy, freedom, prosperity, and self-determination. We know that responsible politicians are servants of the people in this country, and that the confident representation of national interests is its most important task. That's why we stand for a Germany that is founded on respect for freedom, the unconditional respect for the law, equality before the law, and unity in defending these values. This is our vision for Germany. Our hand is extended to all who want to realize this with us. And it's up to you whether you want to take this hand. Our beloved Germany deserves it by now.